Well, now that we've learned how to combine like terms, that's not a skill that we can forget. We're going to kind of move on and we're going to cover something else, another type of simplifying. So the I can statement for this section is I can distribute and simplify expressions. Okay, and we're going to start with a warm-up here, and it says, what does it mean when there is no symbol between a number and a variable, or between two numbers that are in parentheses? So I've got two examples here. I've got 5x and I've got 4 and then a set of parentheses and then -7. So hopefully you know this by now because we've been working with this a lot and we've been using these words a lot. This is implied multiplication. Multiplication is the only operation that we can write down without using another symbol. So you notice we just put the two multiplication. Okay, we put the number and the variable next to each other, and it's just implied multiplication. If we were going to add those together, we'd have to put a plus between them. If we were going to subtract them, we'd have to put a minus. If we were going to divide them, we'd use a horizontal fraction bar or something like that. But multiplication, we use it so often, it comes up so often, we like to kind of take a shortcut and we write that with just nothing in between. So like if we've got numbers, we put them in parentheses, especially important if the second one's negative. And then if there's just a number and a variable, we just know that that means 5 times x. It literally means 5 times x here, and this literally means 4 times -7, and again I'm going to put that in parentheses. Now, second warm-up question. How are the following problems the same, and what's the easiest way to get the correct answer without a calculator? So these numbers aren't too big, but this is 4 times 14, and this is 4 times 10 plus 4. So if we followed the order of operations, hopefully remember what that is. We do parentheses first, then exponents, then multiplication and division in the order we come to them from left to right, and then addition and subtraction. So we could just go 14 times 4. Let's see, that's 16 add a 1, so that's going to be 56. So we get 56 right here. But we could do something like this, and I'm hoping that everybody's familiar with this. We could do 4 times 10, that would be 40, and we could do 4 times 4 times 4, that'd be 16. Yeah. Oh, this is looking good, because look, if we add those together, then we end up with 56. So same answer either way. Now, we got the same answer, and you may have looked at this and kind of thought about it this way right here. Like you may have thought, oh, okay, I'm going to do 4 times 10 first and then figure out what I get when I add 4 times 4 or something like that. But this kind of goes to a common thing in math, and that's this. One reason why people like math is because there's usually only one correct answer. And that's kind of comforting to a lot of people. They know they got it right. It's not, oh, well, it could be this or this or this or this. Like you might have in an English class or something like that. But one reason why people dislike math is there's often more than one way to get the correct answer, and sometimes that can be confusing. But knowing as many ways to get the correct answer as possible, that's a good thing, and knowing different ways to write and simplify expressions is also a good thing. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to learn some other ways that we can simplify expressions, and we're going to specifically use something called the distributive property. So one of the properties that's used all the time to rewrite expressions is called, we'll write the word distributive. Distributive. Now, I would be surprised if you've never heard of this before, but we're going to hopefully go a little bit more in depth and see how we can apply this in different situations. If we were to talk about this really specifically, the distributive property, that's short for the ability of multiplication to distribute over addition and subtraction, and you'll see what we mean as we go through and do some of these problems. It is really important to note that multiplication is one of the few things that have this distributive property. Okay, so very few properties or operations have this ability, but distributing and its opposite, which we're going to call factoring, which we will deal with in a couple sections from now, those are both really useful. Okay. So here are the instructions for this one. Distribute and simplify each expression. The number outside gets its turn being multiplied with every term inside the parentheses. So here's how I would recommend doing these problems, at least to get started with. So I'm going to zoom in on this just a little bit. and this is what we're going to do. This is negative 2, the integer negative 2, and then there's nothing in between that and the parentheses. So this is a multiplication problem right here, and we need to multiply it by x minus 3. Now, like the problem up above, this one right here, we could have added those together and then it becomes this problem right here. Okay, but you can't add those together because they're not like terms. So in order to do this problem right here, what we're going to do is we're going to take this multiplication and we are going to distribute it through the parentheses. We're going to distribute it over that subtraction operation right there. So we have negative 2 times x. This is a negative times a positive. That would be a negative. And this is a 1 right here, remember. So this is going to be negative 2 and x. So we literally have a negative 2 times an x. And that's it. That's all you can do to simplify that part of it. And then we've got a negative 2 times a negative 3. So we've got negative 2 times a negative 3. Now I'm doing a little bit more work than is absolutely necessary on this, and I'll show you how we can shorten this in just a minute. But there's nothing that we can do to simplify this one right here. So this is just negative 2x. On this one right here, we can actually go through and we can multiply these two together. So I have a negative times a negative, that's a positive, and 2 times 3 is 6. This is the answer right here, and you'll notice that it's written in alphabetical order or descending order because the exponent on this would be a 1, and then we've got the constant at the end. So that's the right order to write that in. So we're going to take a look at this next one right here. We're going to do the same thing here. This number on the outside gets its turn being multiplied by every single one of those. And I would write those lines there so that you don't forget. We've got 3 terms inside the parentheses, so we're going to have negative 3 times negative 1. We're going to have that negative 3 times, I'm not going to write that positive, okay, because if I don't write it, it's just assumed that it's a positive 5. And then I've got negative 3 times negative x. Now I'm going to go through and simplify each one of these. Negative times a negative is a positive. Negative times a positive is a negative, and that's going to be 15y. And negative times a negative is a positive, so that's going to be plus 3x. Now, before I go through and circle this, remember we want to write this in the correct order. So if we've got 3 terms, we've got a constant. It's going to go at the end, and we're going to write the variables in alphabetical order. So we're going to write 3x minus 15y, and then we'll put the plus 3 at the end. That right there is the order that we want to write the answer in. Okay? Alright, let's take a look at another example. Now this one's got an asterisk by it, and it's got it by it for a reason. We don't always see them in this order. Most of the time we have the constant or whatever term we're multiplying by out front. Sometimes you'll see it on the back, but that's okay. This is going to be this stuff, these 2 terms, times that 6. So we're just going to draw our arcing lines the other way. So if we multiply here, 6 times 4, now I'm going to do this a little bit quicker. 6 times 4 is going to be 24, a positive 24. This is 6 times negative 3n, so the sign in front here is negative, so this is a positive times a negative, so that's a negative 18n. And again, we want to write this in the correct order, so we're going to write negative 18n plus 24, and that is the answer. So we've done a couple problems where we've distributed and then simplified it and written it in the right order and that sort of thing. We're going to do just a couple more and then you should be ready to do the assignment. So I'm going to leave that about right there so you can look at those examples. And then again, there are a couple key ideas here that we want to make sure we're clear on. One of them is distribute the multiplication to get rid of the, let's see, what did we get rid of in each one of these cases right here? What we got rid of was that big set of parentheses. So we distribute the multiplication to get rid of the parentheses, and then we collect like terms. We always want to simplify by finishing off by collecting like terms, and then we always want to write things in alphabetic and descending order with the constant at the end, like we did on each one of these. So we could write each one like this, write the multiplication problem for each one and then simplify from there. I'm going to show you a way that I like to do these, but again, I wouldn't get away from, whoops, we'll make it this big. I wouldn't get away from writing these lines for the time being. So I'm going to take that one and multiply it by each one of those. So this is a positive 5 times a negative 4x, and you can actually say that in your mind. Positive 5 times negative 4x, that's going to be a negative 20. Slap that x on the end because we're still multiplying by that x. Then positive 5 times positive 10, That's going to be 50. And look, done right there. It's in the right order and everything. This one's got the number we're multiplying by on the end, so we're going to do this. Now, I'm going to multiply the negative 4 times the negative 2. That's an 8. Negative 4 times negative 4w, that would be positive 16w. Negative 4 times positive 10x, that's going to be negative 40x. And then you'll notice we've got something wrong here. Clearly we can't have that constant at the beginning, and gosh, this is in exactly the wrong order. So we're going to write the negative, oops, not exactly the wrong order, almost the wrong order. So 16w minus 40x, and then we'll do the plus 8 at the end, and there's our answer. Now this one's kind of interesting. This doesn't happen all the time. Usually they'd have these combined for us already, but I'm going to do this. We're going to do 2. And then we're going to do plus 4y, because when we combine the 5y minus y, we get 4y, and then I'm going to distribute each one of those. Now I'm going to be a little bit efficient on this problem. This is a constant. When I multiply it by 10, I'm still going to have a constant. We need to put that at the end, so I'm actually going to do this multiplication first. That would give me 40y, and if I multiply 2 times 10, that's going to give me plus 20, and then I'm done. I've got it in the right order and I've got the right answer there. Okay. All right, let's take a look at a couple more. Notice on this one here we've got 4 terms inside the parentheses. Probably the best thing to do would be to do this. Let's combine those like terms. So that's going to be 6r, and that comes before s, so we're in good shape just writing the s there, and then minus 1, and then we'll distribute each one of those through with a negative 7. So negative 7 times 6r, negative 42r, negative 7 times negative, and I need to make that look like an s. Whoops. S. So that's going to be positive 7s. Sometimes my s's look like 5s. That still looks horrible, but we're going to go with it. And then let's see, negative 7 times negative 1 is positive 7. Written in the right order, we'll just go ahead and circle that one. This one's an interesting one because we've got this number hanging around here at the end. Remember, this multiplication only applies to the stuff in parentheses, so it only gets multiplied with this and this. That negative 5b is just going to hang out on the end there for just a second. So we're going to have 12b, 4 times 3b is 12b, 4 times 7a is going to be 28a, and then minus 5b. I'm going to be smart about this. This is the only a term. It's going to come first alphabetically, so I'm going to write 28a, and I'm going to lightly cross that off. That leaves these two right here. They are like terms, so let's go ahead and combine them. 12b minus 5b would be 7b. We'll go ahead and circle that, and we're all set to go. All right, last one. Again, you'll notice that this right here is the set of parentheses. These are not in parentheses, so we're only going to distribute through here. So this would be negative 35x. Let's see, negative times a negative. This is going to be positive 7y. And I'm just going to rewrite these guys right here, and then we'll run through and we'll collect like terms. The x's are going to come first, so let's see, negative 35x plus 15x. Different signs, so we're going to find the difference. The difference between 35 and 15 is 20. The bigger one's negative, so that's going to be negative 20x. Again, lightly cross that off so we know we're done with them. And then we've got 7y minus 2y. 7y's minus 2y's would leave us with 5y's, and that would be positive. Okay, give the assignment a shot. Thanks.